The throne hall of the Zareth Empire trembled with silence. The great golden pillars stood tall like silent witnesses, and the air was thick with fear. At the center, on her shining silver throne, sat Queen Zalara, ruler of 1,000 worlds. Her eyes, glowing like molten stars, burned with rage as her voice echoed across the hall. "Who got my daughter pregnant?" Her roar shook the marble floor. Courtiers, soldiers, and servants froze in terror. Even the alien flames burning in the royal lamps flickered weakly, as if afraid of her fury. The young Princess Lyra sat at the side of the hall, trembling. Her hands clutched her dress near her stomach, where the faint glow of new life shimmered, a secret no longer hidden. Tears filled her golden eyes. She had never seen her mother so furious. Or so hurt. No one answered. The silence stretched painfully long. The guards lowered their heads. The nobles whispered nervously, their silver robes brushing the floor. The queen rose slowly from her throne. Her wings, wide and majestic, unfolded behind her, each scale reflecting violet light. Her voice grew colder, sharper. "Tell me now," she said, her tone like a blade. "Who among you dares defile royal blood?" Still no one spoke, until a voice, like steady, deep, and human, broke through the storm. "I did," the hall gasped as one. A man stepped forward from the back of the crowd. His uniform was simple, the black and gray of Earth's peace envoys. He was tall, with rough hands, brown eyes, and a scar along his cheek. A human, one of the few ever allowed in the royal palace. He looked straight at the queen, unflinching. "I am Captain Daniel Reed, representative of Earth. I am the one responsible." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Every alien eye turned toward him, some in disbelief, others in disgust. The queen's wings stiffened. Her face darkened with wrath. "A human," she hissed. "You dare stand before me and admit this?" Daniel didn't move. His voice stayed calm, though his heart beat wildly inside his chest. "Yes, Your Majesty. I love your daughter, and she loves me." The words struck the hall like thunder. The queen's fury ignited again. "Love?" She spat the word like poison. "You call your crime love? You think your weak human blood is worthy of royal lineage?" Lyra's voice broke through, trembling but brave. "Mother, please. He's not lying. I love him." The queen turned to her daughter, her expression twisting between anger and heartbreak. "Lyra, you don't know what you're saying. Do you understand what you've done? The blood of humans and Zareths cannot mix. It's forbidden." Tears ran down Lyra's face. "Then I have broken your laws for the sake of my heart," she whispered. "I won't deny my child, or the man I love." The queen stepped down from her throne, her long gown dragging across the shining floor. She stood before Daniel, towering above him like a goddess of fury. Her eyes glowed brighter, almost blinding. "You've brought shame to this empire," she said, her voice trembling with rage, "and death to yourself." Guards rushed forward, surrounding Daniel with spears raised. But Daniel didn't move. His eyes never left hers. "If you want to kill me, I won't resist," he said quietly. "But know this, I didn't come here to destroy your empire. I came here because your daughter taught me what peace really means. She taught me to see beauty where I once saw fear." The queen's expression wavered for a second. Only a second, before turning cold again. "Take him," she ordered. As the guards grabbed Daniel's arms, Lyra screamed, "No! Don't take him!" She ran forward, throwing herself between them. Her wings folded around him protectively, her tears falling onto his shoulders. "Please, Mother," she begged. "Don't hurt him. If you take him, you take me too." The queen's face softened. Pain flickered behind her stern eyes, but she turned away, hiding it. "Then so be it," she said. The hall's great doors slammed shut. And in that moment, the empire that ruled the stars began to shake. Not from war, but from love. Daniel was thrown into the crystal prison beneath the palace. The walls glowed faintly, reflecting the dim light in fractured patterns. He landed on the cold floor, his hands still bound. The air smelled sharp like ozone after a storm. Alone, he sat quietly, listening to the distant hum of the palace above. Every step, every echo reminded him of the world he had left behind. Earth, where life was simpler, but love like this could never exist. He closed his eyes and remembered Lyra's laughter. The way she tilted her head, curious about his stories of Earth. The gentle way she held his hand when the guards had almost crushed it. He smiled, though his heart ached. This was the consequence of love. standing tall against an entire empire. The door opened and soft light spilled into the cell. Lyra stepped inside. Her golden eyes were red from crying. Her wings drooped in exhaustion. She looked at him silently for a moment, then whispered, "They want to send you back." Or worse, Daniel's lips curved into a small, wry smile. Or worse is always possible, but I'm not afraid. Not while you exist. She stepped closer, brushing a strand of her hair from his face. "Mother, she won't forgive you." "I can see it. You might never leave this place alive." Daniel held her gaze. "If I die, it won't matter. I'll die loving you. That makes it worth it." Her tears fell freely now. "You don't understand, Daniel. My mother rules over 1,000 worlds. She will never forgive a human touching her daughter. Not for love. Not for anything." He reached for her hand, but the crystal barrier stopped him. "I don't ask for forgiveness," he said softly. "I only ask for understanding, for her to see the truth of our love." For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she placed her hand gently on the crystal, letting her warmth meet his through the barrier. "You are brave," she whispered. "And foolish, but I love you." Daniel's chest tightened. "I love you too, always." The night passed slowly. Outside, the palace slept under the twin moons. The wind howled through the spires, carrying whispers of revolt, whispers of hope, whispers of fear. Daniel thought about what the queen had said, about bloodlines, about laws, about empire. He thought about Lyra's child glowing faintly inside her, a life innocent and untainted by fear or hatred. That child deserved more than rules. That child deserved love. At dawn, the guards arrived. They didn't speak. Daniel rose calmly, letting them escort him through the palace corridors. The hallways were empty, save for the echoes of his steps and the faint hum of alien energy flowing through the walls. When they reached the council chamber, the doors opened, revealing hundreds of alien nobles. Their faces were stern, judgmental, curious. Daniel stood tall, his hands still bound, but his eyes did not waver. The queen entered, her presence like a storm. Every eye turned to her. The air vibrated with her authority. She paused before Daniel, her expression unreadable. "You are human," she said finally, voice steady but sharp. "You stand here facing the entire empire and admit to defiling my daughter. You understand what that means?" Daniel met her gaze without fear. "I understand, and I accept it. But I do not regret it. My actions were born from love, not from ambition or arrogance." A murmur passed through the council. Some whispered in shock, others in admiration. No one had dared speak of love in this room in centuries. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand on the barrier separating Daniel from the council. "Mother," she said, voice trembling but firm. "This child, our child, is part of both our worlds. He does not deserve hatred, and neither does he deserve a father who fears for his life. Please, look at him as hope, not shame." The queen's eyes flickered, betraying a crack in her armor of rage. The council whispered louder. Some called for Daniel's death, others for mercy. The empire was on the edge of a storm, and Daniel's courage was the spark. The queen turned, wings folding slowly behind her. Her eyes softened ever so slightly, but her voice remained commanding. "We will see, daughter. But understand this, and the path you have chosen is not free of consequence." Lyra nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand, but I will stand for love, and he will stand with me." Daniel watched her, hope swelling in his chest. The queen's anger was immense, the empire vast, but in that moment he knew one thing. Love had already taken root. And nothing, not even 1,000 worlds, could stop it. The council chamber was vast, filled with towering figures draped in robes of silver and violet. Hundreds of alien nobles whispered among themselves, their voices like the rustling of metal leaves. At the center, Daniel Reed stood, his hands still bound, his gaze steady. He knew the eyes of the empire were upon him, some filled with curiosity, some with fear, and many with outright hatred. The queen sat at the head of the council, her wings folded like a storm about to break. She raised one clawed hand, silencing the murmurs instantly. "This human stands accused of defiling our royal bloodline," she said, her voice ringing coldly. "What say you, council?" A tall counselor stepped forward, his scales glinting under the crystal light. "Your Majesty, he is human. Their kind brings destruction, disease, and rebellion wherever they appear. If we allow him to live, we invite chaos." Another counselor, older and grayer, shook his head. "Perhaps," he said quietly. "Or perhaps he represents something greater, A bridge, a chance for unity. We have ruled by fear for centuries. Maybe it is time to rule by hope. The chamber erupted in debate. Some voices demanded Daniel's death. Others whispered in support, inspired by the courage of the human standing unflinching before them. The queen's eyes never left Daniel, scanning him as if she could see every thought in. Lyra stepped forward, her golden wings trembling, yet magnificent in their span. "Mother," she said, her voice firm despite the tears in her eyes, "this man loves me. He will love our child, and he will protect it with his life. Can you not see? Killing him would destroy more than just one life. It would destroy the chance for peace, for our future." The queen's expression darkened. "You speak of peace, daughter, but you know nothing of the weight of ruling 1,000 worlds. Your love is fragile. Your child. Human blood may weaken our empire. Do you not understand?" Daniel spoke before Lyra could respond. "Your Majesty," he said, voice calm but unwavering, "I do understand. I understand the weight of your crown. I understand the fear of your people. But I also understand love, and your daughter has shown me that even the strongest empires cannot survive without it. Let me live, not for me, but for her, for our child, and for the hope your people could carry into the future." A silence fell over the chamber. The weight of his words pressed on every noble present. Some lowered their heads in shame, others scowled in disbelief. The queen's wings shifted uncomfortably. For decades she had ruled with an iron claw, punishing all who dared challenge her laws. Yet here was a human, a weak, fragile creature by her standards, standing bravely against centuries of fear and tradition. "You speak boldly," she said slowly, her voice quieter than before. "But words alone do not change law." Daniel nodded. "I do not expect them to. I only ask that you see the truth. Love is stronger than fear. It is stronger than hate. It is stronger than empire." The council murmured again. Some were moved, some were outraged. The queen rose, her wings spreading wide, her eyes glinting with violet fire. She turned to Daniel, studying him as though trying to weigh his soul against the entire universe. Finally she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of authority and a hint of reluctant respect. "Very well, human. You shall not die this day. But know this, your actions have consequences. You will be tested. The Empire watches, and so do I, fail. And it will be the last choice you make." Daniel bowed slightly. "I accept your judgment." Lyra ran forward and embraced him, her tears wet against his uniform. "Thank you," she whispered. "You risked everything." Daniel held her close. "We risked everything," he corrected softly. "And we will face it together." The queen watched silently, a storm of emotions flickering behind her eyes, anger, fear, and something else she had not felt in centuries, the faintest spark of hope. She turned away, folding her wings, and left the chamber, leaving the council to argue into the night. Outside, the palace corridors were quiet, yet heavy with tension. Daniel and Lyra walked side by side, hands brushing through the crystal barrier of tradition and law. In the distance, the city lights of the Zareth Empire glimmered like distant stars, and Daniel realized that even across the galaxy, love had found a way to shine in the darkest places. And in that moment, both human and alien knew one undeniable truth. Nothing, not fear, not laws, not even centuries of hatred, could stop the power of love when it chose to stand. The next days were heavy with tension. The palace, usually alive with order and protocol, now felt like a storm waiting to break. Daniel remained under watch, but no chains bound his resolve. He spent his hours in quiet thought, walking slowly in the crystal corridors, listening to the faint hum of alien energy that ran through the palace walls. Every step reminded him of the Empire's power, vast, unyielding, and yet, love had carried him this far. Lyra visited him every day, slipping past the guards with her mother's silence for just a few moments. Her golden wings drooped with worry, and each time she arrived her eyes held more tears than the last. "They are plotting," she whispered once, pressing her hand against the glass barrier of the hall. "Some counselors want to send you away to Earth, imprisoned forever. Others want more than that." Daniel met her gaze steadily. "Then we face it together," he said softly. "No matter what they decide, we are already united. Our child, our love, nothing can erase that." Lyra shook her head, biting her lip. "It's not enough. You are human. My mother rules the stars. If she doesn't approve, she can crush you like an insect." Daniel smiled faintly. Then I hope she sees us as more than that. Meanwhile, Queen Zalara withdrew into her private chambers. Her mind was a storm of conflicting emotions. Rage burned at the edges of her heart, but beneath it, a quiet, stubborn thread of curiosity tugged at her. This human, small, fragile, and yet fearless, had dared to stand before her and speak of love. Love, not fear, not ambition, not power. She had not expected to see such courage in one of his kind. She studied the portraits of her ancestors, centuries of rulers who had known only war, only rule, only law. None had ever dared challenge her in the way Daniel had. None had ever made her daughter's happiness seem so vital. Her advisors pressed for action. "Your Majesty," one said, his scales shimmering silver, "he is a human. Their kind brings chaos. If you do not act decisively, the council will lose confidence. The empire could fracture." The queen's jaw tightened. "And what would you have me do?" she demanded, her voice trembling only slightly. "I cannot destroy my daughter's heart. And yet, my duty. Duty. The word echoed through her mind like a hammer striking cold steel. She had ruled for decades, bending worlds to her will. Yet here, in this quiet room, a human had shattered her certainty. Back in the corridors, Daniel and Lyra sat together in secret. Their hands brushed through the small cracks in the barrier, a connection that felt more alive than any words. "Mother is strong," Lyra whispered. "But I see doubt in her eyes. I see fear, maybe we have a chance." Daniel nodded. "Then we hold on to that. Every small spark of hope counts. Every moment we show her love can be stronger than hate is a victory." The palace guards shifted nervously around them. The halls were no longer silent. Whispers of rebellion and courage floated through the crystal corridors. Some aliens looked at Daniel with suspicion, others with awe. Even soldiers who had carried him here now hesitated, unsure whether they were enforcing law or destroying hope. That night, the queen walked alone through the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected on the silver pools, casting shadows that danced like memories. She remembered her daughter as a child, laughing in these gardens, fearless and bright. And she remembered the human who had dared to stand against her fury, who had spoken words of love that made her daughter's heart soar. For the first time in decades, Zalara allowed herself to question. Perhaps law alone could not rule the galaxy. Perhaps there was more to power than fear, perhaps. Perhaps love could be stronger than an empire. And somewhere deep inside, she knew the coming days would test them all. Human, alien, mother, daughter. The choices she made now would echo through the stars forever. Daniel, sitting in his small cell, looked out through the crystal bars at the moonlight. "We are not defeated," he whispered to Lyra. "No matter what happens, we will find a way." "We always do." Lyra pressed her hand to the glass again, tears shining in her eyes. "Then let them try," she said softly. "Because we are stronger than fear, stronger than rules, stronger than an empire." And in the quiet of that night, two hearts beat as one, human and alien, standing against the vast weight of the galaxy. The next morning, the palace was alive with tension. The council of elders gathered in the grand hall, their eyes like sharp blades, each reflecting suspicion and doubt. Word of the humans' defiance had spread, stirring whispers throughout the empire. Outside, the streets of the Zareth capital buzzed with fear and curiosity. Some called for Daniel's execution. Others quietly hoped he would survive. Daniel stood in the center of the chamber, his hands free now, but his posture calm. He knew all eyes were on him. Every noble, every soldier, every advisor. He felt the weight of their judgment pressing on him like the gravity of a collapsing star. Yet he did not waver. He would not betray Lyra or their child by showing fear. The queen entered last, her wings folding gracefully, though tension ran through her every movement. Her eyes scanned the chamber, then fixed on Daniel. "You have dared to challenge centuries of law, human," she said, her voice strong yet restrained. "Explain yourself before the council. Why should you live?" Daniel stepped forward, his heart steady. "I live because love cannot be ignored," he said clearly. "I have harmed no one. I have only loved your daughter, and soon we will bring a child into this galaxy. That child is innocent. That child deserves life. I ask for mercy, not for me alone, but for the future of both our worlds." The council erupted. Some hissed, calling him naive. Others whispered their admiration. One elder, her scales dark as midnight, said, "He speaks of hope. But hope cannot rule an empire. Fear does. Lyra stepped forward, her golden wings shimmering in the morning light. "Mother," she said, her voice trembling but determined, "this child, our child, is not a weapon. It is a symbol. You taught me courage, and now I ask you to teach the Empire something greater, that love is stronger than law. That mercy is stronger than fear." The Queen's jaw tightened. Every word struck her like a blade, cutting between her duty and her heart. She had ruled with an iron claw for centuries, commanding obedience through fear. Yet here was a human, weak by all standards, standing calmly, defying her authority, yet not with malice, only love. His mind. "Do you think this is simple?" the Queen asked Daniel, her voice quiet but trembling. "The laws of the Zareth Empire are absolute. One human cannot change that." Daniel met her gaze. "I don't want to change your laws. I want to show that love can exist even within them, that it can unite instead of divide, that it can bring peace even between stars." For a long moment silence ruled. The council whispered among themselves, some nodding, some frowning. Lyra reached for Daniel's hand, letting her warmth meet his. The Queen's eyes flickered between them, a storm of rage, worry, and an unfamiliar emotion. Pride. "Enough," the Queen finally commanded, her voice echoing through the hall. "The council will vote. But know this. If the human survives, it is not because I forgive him. It is because the Empire must see the consequences of defiance without causing chaos." The vote was tense. One by one, the councillors declared their judgment. Some demanded execution. Others demanded exile. Some quietly supported life. When the final count was tallied, a fragile compromise emerged. Daniel would live under watch, his actions judged by both law and mercy. Lyra's wings trembled as she leaned into Daniel. "We did it," she whispered. "He is alive. For now." Daniel smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "It's not over," he said softly. "But this is the first step. Every step from here is ours to take together." The Queen watched them, her expression unreadable. In the quiet of her chambers later, she reflected on the human's courage, the daughter's love, and the fragile life growing within her child. A storm of emotion brewed inside her, stronger than any she had faced in a century of rule. She realized that perhaps the Empire could survive not through fear, but through understanding. And as Daniel and Lyra walked through the palace halls, hands intertwined, they felt it too. A fragile hope blossoming in a galaxy that had long forgotten such a thing. Love had survived the storm. And though the road ahead was uncertain, they would face it together. The palace was quiet at first light, but the air felt heavy, almost alive with tension. Daniel sat in the small chamber assigned to him, staring at the pale glow of the twin moons streaming through the window. Even under guard, he felt a strange calm. He had faced death, defied an empire, and still stood, and for that he was grateful. But the quiet made him uneasy. He knew the real battle had only begun. Lyra arrived quietly, her wings folded tightly against her back. Her eyes were red, her face pale from worry and sleepless nights. "Mother is furious," she whispered, pressing her hand against the glass barrier of his cell. "She doesn't trust you. She doesn't trust us. And now, she plans a test, a trial by the council that could end everything." Daniel nodded, his hand brushing hers through the small gap. "Then we will face it," he said softly. "Together. No matter what she decides, we have each other. And our child." Lyra's eyes glimmered with tears. "I fear for you. I fear for me. And for him, our child. But I cannot regret what we've done. Love is worth the risk." Meanwhile, Queen Zalara paced in her private chambers. The fury in her chest battled with something she had not felt in decades: doubt. She had ruled her people with unwavering authority, crushing threats, punishing disobedience. Yet this human, this fragile being from a distant world, had forced her to question herself, to question the laws she had upheld for centuries. Her advisors whispered anxiously, "Your Majesty, you must show strength. If the council sees doubt, it will spread. The Empire could fracture." Zalara's jaw tightened. "Strength without wisdom is meaningless," she said sharply. "I will not destroy what is innocent, but I cannot allow chaos." Her gaze drifted to a crystal portrait of her late husband, the ruler who had fallen in battle against humans decades ago. He had taught her to fear them, to mistrust them. Yet here was Daniel, fearless, honorable, and unyielding. Could it be that the humans were not all as they had been taught? Could love truly transcend centuries of conflict? That night, Daniel was brought before the Council of Trials. The chamber was colder than usual, the walls glinting under pale light. Lyra followed, silent but steadfast, her golden wings folded like shields of hope. The council's faces were sharp, their whispers slicing through the air like knives. "You stand accused of defying the Queen," a counselor began, voice harsh. "You have crossed species, broken law, and brought uncertainty to the Empire. Why should we spare your life?" Daniel looked at each of them, then at Lyra. "I did not defy your empire," he said calmly. "I followed my heart. I acted out of love, not ambition. I do not seek power. I only seek to protect the life I helped create, the life of your princess and the child she carries." A murmur rose in the chamber. Some counselors scowled. Others whispered quietly among themselves. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand gently on Daniel's arm. "He is honest," she said, her voice trembling but strong. "If you kill him, you kill not only my love, but hope itself. Our child deserves better than fear." The Queen entered the chamber silently. Her presence commanded the room, but her eyes softened as she looked at Daniel. For the first time, she saw him not as a human, not as a threat, but as someone brave enough to challenge an empire for love. She raised her hand. "The trial begins," she announced, but her voice carried a note of unease, a whisper that even the counselors noticed. In that moment, everyone knew. The Queen's heart was no longer only bound by law. Something greater, something more fragile yet stronger than fear, was stirring within her. Outside the chamber, the Empire waited, watching, and inside, two hearts, human and alien, beat as one, ready to face the trials ahead, knowing that love had already changed the course of the galaxy. The day of judgment had come. The Grand Hall of the Zareth Empire was packed with nobles, soldiers, and citizens from across the Empire. The walls shimmered with the light of hundreds of alien crystals, reflecting colors like liquid gold and violet. Outside, the twin moons bathed the palace in a soft silver glow. The entire Empire watched as history would unfold. Daniel stood at the center, calm but aware of the weight upon him. Beside him, Lyra's hand rested on his arm, her wings folded protectively around her. Their child moved gently inside her, a silent reminder of the life they had created together, innocent, pure, and a symbol of unity between worlds. Queen Zalara entered the hall, her presence commanding immediate silence. Her eyes scanned the crowd and then rested on Daniel. For a long moment, she said nothing, her gaze holding centuries of power and judgment. The Empire waited, holding its breath. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady but soft. "For decades, I have ruled this empire with law and fear. I have punished those who defied me. I have believed that strength is absolute and that compassion is weakness." Her gaze shifted to her daughter. "But this human, this Captain Daniel Reed, has taught me something I did not expect. He has shown courage, honor, love. And through him, I see my daughter's heart, bright and unyielding." The council shifted uneasily, murmuring. Some were shocked, some were inspired. But the Queen raised a clawed hand, silencing all. "I have decided," she continued, "that Daniel Reed shall live. He shall not be punished for his love, nor for the child he has brought into this galaxy. Let his courage serve as a reminder that even the smallest beings can challenge empires and inspire change." A hush fell over the hall. Then slowly, applause and murmurs of approval began to ripple through the audience. Some aliens bowed their heads in respect. Others looked uncertain but thoughtful. The Queen's choice had changed more than one life. It had begun to shift the hearts of the entire empire. Daniel turned to Lyra, eyes glistening. We did it," he whispered. "Not just for us, but for everyone who believes in something greater than fear." Lyra smiled through tears. "Mother, thank you," she said softly, "for seeing us, for seeing love." Queen Zalara nodded, her eyes softening for the first time in decades. "Do not mistake this for weakness," she said. "But I see now that the empire must grow, not through fear but through understanding. This child you carry will be a bridge between our worlds, a symbol of hope. And I will protect that future as I would protect my own life." The crowd cheered, and for the first time in centuries the hall felt alive, not with tension, but with possibility. Soldiers lowered their weapons, nobles relaxed, and whispers of hope spread like wildfire. Months passed. Daniel remained on the planet, no longer a prisoner but an honored guest. Lyra's child grew within her, a small life that glowed faintly with a mix of human warmth and Zareth light. The people watched, slowly learning that love could be stronger than law, stronger than fear, stronger than centuries of tradition. When the day came to bring the child into the world, the entire empire gathered. Queen Zalara held the newborn in her arms, her scales glinting like polished silver. The child's eyes were soft, shimmering with promise, and the crowd gasped in awe. "This child," the queen announced, "is not a mistake. He is the future. He is proof that even the smallest choices, the bravest hearts, and the purest love can change the course of worlds." Daniel stood beside her, tears in his eyes, holding Lyra's hand. "Our child," he said softly, "is hope. Hope that one day humans and Zareths will not only coexist but thrive together." The queen smiled faintly, her heart lighter than it had been in decades. She looked at Daniel, and for the first time she saw him not as a human, but as a hero, a protector, a part of her family.